I mean, if you're one of those people that's looking into AI and trying to follow it the best way you can, it's super overwhelming.
It
You
is.
know, anybody who's talking about it online wants to grab your attention, so they're telling you you're behind.
All right, welcome back to the Landed Podcast, where Dirt World meets Real Talk. I'm your host, Josh Stockel, and today I've got two guys who are rewriting what it means to run a professional land and site work company here in Texas. Charlie and Colton are the team behind TexTerra, and what they've built isn't just dirt moving operation. It's a systems-driven, culture-first, total site integration company that's setting a new standard for what this industry can look like. Charlie brings a tech sector SOP mindset to the dirt world, and Colton brings elite level craftsmanship from years in high-end residential. Together, they've created something that most contractors in this space haven't even thought about yet. So guys, welcome to the Landed Podcast. Glad to have y'all here.
I like it.
Glad
It's a
to
good
be
intro.
here.
That was a good one, right? Did you
That's
like
good.
that?
Yeah, it makes us sound like we know what we're doing, so that's nice.
100 years in, guys.
Yeah,
Really
look at
excited
us.
for y'all to share everything you've learned. No, so tell us, we're going to get into AI. We're going to get into tech. One of the things I love about these two guys, for you guys who are tuning in, is we've got like Charlie, who is in the tech world, and then we got Colton, who's in the dirt world. And so we have tech dirt together. And I think that is so cool. And we're going to get into some of that here in a minute. But first, just kind of tell us about your company. What is your primary offering? What is it that you guys do? How many years you've been in business, finances, all that stuff. Just give us a quick shot of your company.
Yeah. So we're a 50-50 partnership. So for those who like own businesses and are kind of wondering what's the arrangement, how does it work? So we're 50-50 on the ownership of the business. But then when you look at the day-to-day, Colton's running so much of the day-to-day as our COO. So he's head of everything field and sales and just operations in general. Mm-hmm. And my role as CEO is really forward-looking and also handling the office type thing. So our core business, really, we serve two primary markets. So we have a B2B and a B2C. So our business-to-business operations is mostly high-end custom home builders. That's our primary market. Those are the people we really modeled ourselves to serve. But all of those skill sets translate to our B2C, which is our business to customer. We call them farm and ranch. Those are anybody with a couple of acres that need something done on the property. Yeah. Our little saying for them is we do everything from the gate to the porch. So if it's on the outside, that's what we handle. And for our builder clients, we're a general contractor for everything on the outside. So it's a bit of like elevated dirt work is maybe a way to say it if you're not trying to sound, if you're not worried about sounding too fancy, but that's the approach.
I like it. Yeah. So you guys, do you have any other operators? What's your machine scope look like? Where are you guys at?
Yeah. So we've got, I'm the head operator, you could say, whenever I'm out on the job. We've got another guy that's got tons of experience, used to own his own business. So he gets the struggle that everybody goes through when they're starting their own business. He's super competent, knows how to operate pretty much any piece of equipment. And then we've got a younger guy that we just hired on about 6 months ago. And we actually hired him from an equipment rental place local here. And, it was a great add to the team. Knows how to maintain everything, knows how to operate everything. He spent a couple of years at the equipment rental place, and, he handled all their maintenance, loading up trailers with equipment. And, both of those guys, I trust them to take care of any job we've got, and I don't have to be there every day. And so, those are the two guys that do most of our work whenever I'm not out in the field.
Awesome. That's great. I love that. So you guys got this, tech world meets high-end residential. So how does this combo work? Tell us about that.
Well, it was funny because, for the last few years, I guess, I've been in tech, like 15, 20 years, something like that, long time. Mm-hmm. And in that world, it just, in the sales world that I'm in, it just, it's really high demand. It's super fast paced. And then of course, as you work for bigger and bigger companies, maybe they're public. So your jobs are just, who knows? So it's one of those things where like, I always wanted more control over my income. And I always wanted to own a local small business and be a part of that community. I've always kind of looked up to those people in our community. And I've got young kids now too. And, I read a lot and I research a lot. And one of the things I heard was kids who grow up to be entrepreneurs, an overwhelming amount of them saw their parents do it. So they knew it was possible. Yeah. And so some of this is we just, in getting into owning our own business, I was like, hey, I just want to make sure that these are all the boxes I want to check. And it just so happened I was looking for businesses to buy. I was kind of really not even caring about what it was going to be, something I could be interested in, but something that would kind of put me in that direction. And Colton came over to our house, and him and his wife came over, and he was like, hey, I'm doing all this stuff building my house. He's like, I think I want to start a company doing this. And I was like, it just kind of like hit me. I was like, yeah, sure, let's talk about it. And so we sort of shaped it up, and I was like, hey, the more you think about this, it kind of makes sense. I've got a lot of the, business acumen that I've gotten in like enterprise sales and working with some of the biggest companies in the world. You know all about this world. And what I have learned over time is the good separation of people who are just good at different things within a business. Like you have to have that trust. And I stopped a long time ago trying to like build off of, on my weaknesses and just really double down on the strengths. And so we just, brought it together and brought this approach to this business and said, well, look, we can offer a high-end experience, and these are the kind of clients we want to have. This is where we think the revenue in our area is going to be. With my experience, we can take this approach, and I can be the investor. So it just sort of happened. I don't want to say haphazardly, but like it kind of came together pretty quickly, and we just sort of jumped into it. But it's been a really, really good split. Partnerships are dangerous. I've seen family members get into partnerships that didn't end well. They ended in court. And there's so much of that out there. But I think what's nice is, we each have obviously a huge amount of respect and appreciation. And it's a good partnership when both people feel like they never want to let the other person down. Like, is that guy working more than I'm working on this thing? So all of that exists, which I think make it, work for us.
Yeah. And also I would add to that, I think we have a very natural split in skills for the company. Charlie doesn't know how to start our equipment, but I don't know how to do any of the business development stuff that Charlie's really good at. So, I know people that have gone into business together, friends, they've got the same skills. They both want to be out there operating equipment, and nobody wants to deal with accounts payable, accounts receivable, sending out invoices, all the office stuff that is a little bit of a pain in the butt sometimes. If you've got two guys that are very similar, that's when things can get nasty. And so I think having an ideal partnership like Charlie and I have is huge.
Well, and you'll see too, we don't compete for airtime either. Like I do most of the talking and he's perfectly fine just letting that happen. But for me, the like game of business, if you've been in business a while, and depending on like what part of business you're in, but the game of business, the strategy of business, building partnerships, seeing, leading large teams and having things come to fruition that, change your life and businesses' lives and things like that. I mean, to me, that is so fun. And so to get to come over here and have the freedom to shape this thing however we want. And we'll get into some stuff like our Liberty Hill Legacy project that, I'm assuming a bunch of people aren't thinking in that way, but it gives us a chance to, immediately to come over here and like scratch that itch of how can we just build something we really like that makes an impact and impacts our guys in the best way. And I get to play strategy all the time, and he gets to play in the dirt all the time, and everybody's doing what they want to do.
Oh, absolutely. I've built and sold a couple different companies. I've built and failed a couple of different companies. I've had, most of them have been just me by myself. I've had a few with partners, and the partners have been the hardest.
Yeah.
And it's not because the partners that I've worked with have been bad guys. Fortunately, the most recent one that failed a few years ago, that was kind of like a side project I was launching, and it was my buddy's full-time thing. It failed. And, it had a bunch of different things. And I mean, my goodness, we could spend hours talking about all the things to really get a business off the ground. But when it came to partnership, one of the things I give advice to guys all the time, if you're going to do it, you've got to be clear on what those lines are. Who's doing what? You both can't do the same thing. And just because you're friends or your family, you don't just want to just bring them on. They've got to bring an asset or a skill or both to the table. That's the only way that we're going to really be able to scale and grow, is because we both keep to our lanes, and now together we're stronger than just one individual. So if that's not there, don't do it. Just stay away from it.
Well,
you're better by yourself.
And I say that we sort of jumped into this, and I actually think we did, to the point that we said, yes, let's do this thing. But this gap between, yes, let's do this thing, and we're official, we're, buying equipment, doing jobs. There was actually a lot of discussion in here that I totally forgot about until now. But like, what was that? It was like a 5-page questionnaire about what do you want out of life,
Right.
that we both filled out. And then we sat in my backyard and we went through everything
Right.
together so we can make sure we're going in the same direction. Because that's the big deal with partnerships is, there's obviously all the day-to-day stuff that can get in the way, but ultimately it's like, well, when this thing gets big, what do you want? Are we going
Right.
to want to do completely different things?
Yeah.
Do we have completely different visions for how this
Right.
is going to go? And frankly, too, one of the issues we dealt with was me as the initial, and still the sole investor of this, but we wanted to go in this 50-50 because our big problem we had to solve for in the beginning is I still have a full-time job, so I'm not going to be there every day doing this thing. You're going to be doing this thing every day. So strategically in my mind, I'm like, well, he's got to have that incentive there, that return on that time.
Yeah.
So we wanted to go in halvesies, but like, this is an equipment business. But if I'm buying the equipment so he automatically gets like half of that. So our solve to that, by the way,
tough.
it was just, it's little stuff you got to think about because we wanted to try to remove any emotional things that could happen.
Right.
And we always talk about this, like in our day to day, it's like whatever problem pops up, let's get the data down so we can talk about the thing and not talk about and not have it muddled by how everybody feels about the thing. So
no, that's good.
I ended up creating a holding company that bought a bunch of the initial stuff and then just lent it essentially, like our company that we have, the services company, gets to use it all. And then over time, it'll pay that stuff off. It'll all be wholly owned by the partnership when, the money works out that way. But that was some of our initial solve in how do we have one investor but two owners of a services business.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
man, that's real good because that is usually the big trip up I've noticed when it's like, okay, we figured out the partnership in terms of who's responsible for what and different skills, but it's like, but now what do you do with the assets and the debt? Someone's bringing money, someone's not. Someone's buying equipment, someone's not. So how does that all? So that's really good advice.
Yeah, because that can
create a holding company and then leasing that out, or are you renting that out to your actual service company?
No. So
is that what you said?
With me being 100% owner of the holding company.
Yes, the holding company.
And then 50% owner of the services company. And we're just launching this from the ground. I didn't want to throw like some kind of rental rate to make this thing make money. Because also for me, from a tax perspective, whether I'm making money here, I'm making money here, like I'm still getting hit with it anyway. So we didn't want to hinder the growth of the services company. So basically it just got to use it for free. It's like, if your dad has equipment and he just lets you borrow it to do your thing.
Yeah. He's like, here you go, kid.
Exactly.
Thanks,
so, we decided together we weren't going to have like a predatory relationship between the equipment owning company and the services company, because everything we're trying to do is just like get this thing off the ground. And what I like about it though, is we were able to sit down and kind of plan for some of these things that could cause emotional reactions should something happen. And we tried to solve for that before it even became a thing. So all we have to focus on is grow the business.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Starting a business is hard enough. You don't need like
really
fundamental issues in the mix too.
It is. And then building that momentum, cash flow, like, yeah, gosh, yes. So you guys position yourselves as like an exterior GC, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're like the one point of contact for everything on the outside of the build. So pitch me this concept, like I'm a builder managing 5 subs. How would you pitch that?
Yeah. And so, the nice thing is, because really, if you think about it, if you're a big builder and you're handling a big project, say a $10 million project, whatever, you've got, I don't know, Colton, how many subs are generally on like?
At any one time, we went and looked at a job that we're going to be starting next month from a builder. It's a $35 million remodel in Austin on the lake. And that was the most congested job site I've ever seen. There was probably 40 or 50 trucks and cars on site. And so, I used to work for one of those builders that builds these 20, 30, $40 million homes. And the headache of having to manage all of the guys that are on the inside, whether it's framing, drywall, trim carpenters, whatever it is, plus the landscapers, the pool guy, the grading, all of it. it can be a huge headache. And so Charlie can probably poetically explain it a little better than I can, but the goal is to eliminate some of that headache for the superintendents and the project managers on site. And so now they've got one guy that they can call that can handle the landscaping, the pool, the grading, the excavation, any kind of demo that needs to happen. We're the one guy to handle all that, and they can focus on what the homeowner is going to see every day when they're cooking dinner or when they're going to bed or waking up in the morning.
What's important about that, though, and this is where we pull in a little bit of my tech experience philosophy, is everything we do, we're trying to move from a vendor to a partner. And you have to be, like, for someone to relinquish all of the outside responsibilities to someone else, not completely like they're never going to see it or touch it or whatever, but to say, you know what, I feel like you can do it. You run these crews for us. This will be less of a headache for me. Thank you. We have to exhibit that that's what we're after. And that shows up in a number of different ways as to, like, how do you project yourself to be that kind of business and come in more as a partner to that builder rather than just another vendor to that builder on.
Well, and how do you do that? How do you sell it as a long-term land partnership versus like that one-time job?
I think a lot of it is, how do you talk about what you want to do? Or, like, how do you talk about how do you do your business? We always lead with the line that says we're general contractors for everything on the outside. And, you get some people that just get it right away. Maybe they're a smaller builder and they're like, oh, that would be really nice. Yeah. Because that cuts like half my stuff. But some of it is like how you look when you show up. Is your decently clean? Is the material that we presented, like we have really nice one-pagers that we built that are good overviews of our business, like how to think of us, what do we do? It's the way in which we present ourselves and come in and just kind of paint this vision of, like, look, we're not just some dude, with one machine and we just want this job and we're just going to kind of move on. I think it's the way you present yourself and talk about how you can be a partner through this. And that goes from everything from actually executing on the job to how you work with the PM to the safety guy to the back office. There has to be a level of professionalism in all of it that they trust that you're going to do what you're aiming to do.
Yeah, that's killer. Because we got a lot of guys. We've even got a lot of clients who, are just kind of like, hey, the $2,500 a day job, knock it out. Where's my next one? Where's my next one? Where's my next one? And then we've got some clients, even in the last month, we've had $1.2 million job, $4.5 million job. We've got one guy that's working up a 9-figure contract.
Wow.
And there's a theme or a trend I'm noticing with these guys who are pulling these in, is that they are trying to cover the remaining parts of the project, not just be the guy who comes in and with a skid steer and a mulcher and just kind of knocks some stuff out, but is like, what are all the moving parts that you need heavy machinery for, kind of exterior GC, right? And how do I sell that and pitch that? And not just, well, I can do other things, but no, not we can, we do all of it. So it's positioning, service offering, pricing, right? And presentation, I feel like.
And presentation.
That's really how they're doing it.
I get, the guys may say on to the guys about, but I'm always trying to make sure that whatever we send out is representative of how we want to be perceived. Thing I say all the time, show your work, because it's not just about the price that we're presenting on this particular job. We're going to do X, Y, Z. What subconsciously people get, or even some people consciously, if you're looking for it, is, how is it presented? Do I trust that you have a high quality of work standard? Right. Did you get all the little stuff? Does this read, this estimate, does it flow? Can I tell you put time into thinking, how am I going to receive this?
Right.
Is it packaged in a way that's not just in an email, but it's in this nice thing? You know what I mean? Like, it's all that stuff. I think showing your work shows how you think and how you, it's the same thing, right? How you do one thing, how you do everything. It's all that little subconscious stuff. And for me, in the tech world, when you can become the hub and you've got a guy for everything, people always come back to that guy, because then they've got to make one phone call instead of calling around 5 times to find the one guy that can maybe do a thing. You just
would prefer not to do that.
That's right. And we want to be a hub. So not only is like being an exterior GC, it's just more of the pie, and that's good because we can do more and we can get more jobs for it. But the more we can be associated as the one-stop shop for these people who want any of this stuff, we get a call versus having to always call someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. And I really think that that's where anybody who wants to scale significantly has got to figure that piece out, right? So that you're not just doing the couple $1,000 jobs, day in, day out, day in, day out. Because at some point you really just can't scale into the 20 million, 50 million, $100 million mark doing that.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Well,
So anybody who wants to get significant revenue has got to find a way to piece multiple services together into one job offering. And now be able to pitch and say, yeah, 2 million, 2.5 million for this next job.
yeah, because I mean, even like take utility trenching, for example, right? We trench from the pole at the street to the house. Well, we can also do the pad. We can lay the pipe. All that material's got a markup on it. Again, we're not inviting our competition, because when you have so many services next to each other, like people who do exterior stuff, they've got a buddy that does this thing and a buddy who does that thing. The last thing I want is to invite our competition or someone who's buddies with my competition onto our job site, give them a foothold, and now I'm in a competition I didn't need to be in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real. Yeah, for real.
So it's like the more of that we can control. I'm super big on control, and not to just be pushy, but because I think with control we can dictate the outcomes that we want, and I just think it gives us more opportunities to serve the client and succeed as a business.
Yeah. So you guys have a phrase, right? Invoicing as marketing. The idea is that the paperwork is just as important as your grade work. So tell me about that. What is this whole, one of the things you had said earlier was net positive on site. What does that look like day to day?
Yeah. So with the net positive piece, Colton's got a process that, what's the OAC? Is that what we were talking about? You can tell that story.
So taking some of my experience when I was working with these super high-end home builders, they have scheduled meetings, whether it's once a week, every other week, once a month, whatever it may be, where the owner of the house, the customer of the builder, the owner, the architect, and the contractor, they all have a meeting. They walk the job. They say, hey, here's what we did last week. Here's what we're doing this week. Here's what it looks like next week, a couple weeks, a month from now. And the day before those meetings, it's like all hands on deck. Everybody grab a broom. Everybody carry around a dustpan. We're going to clean this place where you can eat off the ground. And so our goal, using that experience, our goal is to make it easier for the builder to not have to stress about having everybody stop what they're doing at 3:00 the day before and clean everything. So if we see a piece of trash, we pick it up, whether it's ours or not. We don't leave trash in our machines. We don't leave trash on the job site. If we see a piece of trash, it's gone. And so that's just another thing that kind of sets us apart from the other guy with, a trailer with 3 wheels, an old machine that barely starts, and his truck that barely runs. It gives us a little bit of edge, and they appreciate that extra work that we do.
Okay, that's cool.
That's part of our goal to be the net positive on the site, right? Like it needs to be better than when we showed up. We don't leave our stuff in other people's way. We don't get the call saying, hey, come back from lunch because this thing's in my way and this crew can't do their thing. It's instead of always looking inward at just like, what am I doing here? What can I get? It's also looking outward at the site, the other crews, the builder, the builder's customer.
Okay.
How is our presence going to be perceived? Is it net positive or net negative? And it's a number of little things like that. And our invoicing as marketing is simple. We were actually on a call with a new builder, and we came in as a referred from a friend. And so, we were kind of talking to him, and I was like, hey man, we can send you some stuff. You can talk to some of our other builders. And he's like, no, we're good. So-and-so vouched for you. That's good enough for me. He said, but let's talk about some of the invoicing terms and our back office, because it happens to be a family business. It's his sister that runs the office. Okay. And he said, dude, whatever you can do to keep her off my back, we're good. He's like, so I don't care how good you are. If y'all can't figure it out with her, then that causes me problems and I'm not here for it. It's an overt example of what I assume a lot of people feel. And so when we talk about that net positive experience, or just that like partnership and super professional experience, our like impact doesn't stop at the job site. It has to be clean. We have to get
Yes.
invoices in on time. They have to be super clear. They have to be vouched by the PM. Like all those things, we try to take work off and just make it nice. And so the next time somebody, is bringing up in a, production meeting, hey, we're going to use these guys for that office manager or that PM or the safety guy or the builder doesn't pop up and say, forget that. These guys are a headache,
Yep.
So everyone has input on whether or not we work with them again, and we want everyone to say yes.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm one of my projects I'm working on here at the house is some solar shades for the back patio right now. Sunsets right on our back window, and man, don't even get me started. Five guys I sent messages to, none of them responded on the weekend, which I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got solutions for that, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not working with solar panel guys. But the guys who did respond, like the two of them did two different things. So one on Monday, when I finally did get messages from both of them, one sent a really good looking proposal and like the detail and how we're going to break that down. Here's the vendor I use. Here's the material while it's important. So the guy just sent a random text and he's like, well, it looks like a $12,000 job.
Yeah.
I was like, first of all, that's your price is insane. But secondly, dude, like even if it was an insane price, could you have sold me if you just did better?
Yeah.
Like if you just tried harder. And so then the guy who followed up with me today was like, on top of it, hey, did you get the estimate I sent over? What'd you think? What'd you think about the product? Did you get a chance to see the video I sent? And I was like,
yeah,
okay, man, I'm not really interested because I didn't love his price either, but he kept me engaged.
Yeah.
I'm like,
some of those things
more
would
interested
line
because
up.
of how well you're doing.
Yes.
Like you're on top of it. Your invoices look fantastic. Your communication's fantastic, professional looking. Everything felt like this is a legit company I would like to work with.
That's the show your work thing I'm talking about. That tells you how he's going to do the job by how he interacted and quoted the job.
Right. And so, and you just know he's going to finish it up well. It's going to do a good job. His communication's on point. So, and he's the owner. I know that's sometimes with sales and stuff's a little different, but man, I was just like, I even told the guy, I was like, I'm venting right now, but I can't believe all your competitors didn't respond.
Yeah.
Like, good night. There's so much software we can put in place, but
I hope one day we are so busy that we have to have the conversation with our guys that, look, guys, we still have to uphold this standard. We don't cut corners when quoting. I hope we're so busy that becomes a problem. We're not.
Right.
But, who knows? Maybe the guys who just like, throw something over the fence, maybe they've just got so much work they don't need you. But for most of us, that's not the case.
Well, and again, I do think it's important to frame it and remembering who your ideal avatar is, or your ideal customer. It is a high-end person, or it is a commercial builder. Like it's the farm and ranch, like high-end looking stuff. They don't want just a guy showing up with a broke down pickup, some broke down machine and just saying, I bet you I can do it for about $1,500. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like that's not. I share this example all the time about, like, I've had roofers before show up at the house to give an estimate. One shows up in the broke down truck and a ladder, but gives a sweet deal, like low price. Another dude shows up in the wrapped truck wearing a polo, fancy hat, looks sharp, shows up with an iPad. And you already know them walking up to your door who's going to be more expensive and who's not, right?
Yeah.
Who do you think I really want to work with?
You also know automatically who's making more profit. The guy in the wrap with they maintain their profit, but I don't mind paying it because it's like, we all remember the last time we had some electrical done and the electrician dug in the drywall. They never vacuum up the mess they make. I guess they learned that in electrician school. And then he takes off and you just never hear from him again. So if something's not right, it's like, who can I call back?
Exactly. And so I hear from guys all the time, even some of our clients are like, man, I'm playing this game with other local companies. I'm fighting over pricing, and these guys keep lowballing. I'm like, don't play that game.
Exactly.
Don't try and fight for those ideal. Those aren't your ideal customers. Those are just people who are only looking at price. Yeah. So I was like, who do you think got my money when that roofer came up? I already knew he was going to be more expensive, but he got my money. So because but everything from presentation to communication was on point. So I knew that even though I would pay more money, I'm going to get a stellar product and I'm going to get great service and I'm going to get follow through if things don't go right. I know he's insured and he's going to take care of me. So that guy got my money. So it's not always about it. Not every single person out there wants to pay the lowest that they can pay. There are people who are willing to pay more, but you've got to be in a position where you're like, I have more to offer. than the guys who are just going to lowball you.
That brings up like two things of ours, right? One is how we've used AI to figure out our sweet spot of deals we should chase and should not chase based on our utilization numbers and our just, internal pricing. And then the other is to what you were just talking about. We have a saying that we say, if you want to be perceived as better, you first have to be perceived as different.
Yeah.
And if you're chasing price, that's a race to the bottom every time. In the tech world, you see it in like computers and hardware, and everybody is just such a commodity. They all basically kind of do the same thing. All they have to do is race on price, and everybody goes to the bottom. Nobody wins.
Right.
And so from our perspective, like identifying who are our clients. In fact, in the very beginning of this business, I didn't even want to service the farm and ranch community because I was like, I think of it from a sales cycle perspective. We aren't going to have the people to be able to go out there and do the full sales cycle every single time at the volume it's going to take to create meaningful revenue from that segment.
Right.
My only, and this kind of brings us to y'all too, I was like, my only caveat to that is if we can take the customer deeper through the sales cycle automatically, say through ads, social media, qualify them in that way, doing lead magnets, just like kind of different stuff that's more automated. When they get to us, we have a high probability of closing and it's the right kind of work. Then we'll service that business. And it's funny because I was pulling some numbers in preparation for this. Like if you look at our revenue last year, so we've only been in business a year and 7 months. So last year we had 92% of our revenue came from our B2B clients. That was our big focus. So 8% was from that farm and ranch stuff. This year so far, 76% of our revenue has come from B2C clients, the farm and ranch clients.
Wow.
And a bunch of that is because we've been able to effectively automate the front part of that sales cycle by using y'all and the ads and, all part of that process. And so it allows Colton to scale from his B2B sales and then also go and service these farm and ranch clients, which is the only ones that we're actually doing ads with y'all on, is just to service that market individually. So for us, that kind of solved a big problem where we don't have the scale to have, a guy dedicated to just go sell and service builders and a guy dedicated to just run around and do farm and ranch stuff. Y'all going deeper in that process for us allows him to just kind of jump in right on time, right there at the end, get bids out quickly, and it's showing in our revenue mix this year.
Awesome. Colton, how's that been? Like when it was B2B, now B2C, what's that like? Was there a transition for you in the sales process to be able to talk to them differently and in the sales cycle? Like give us some info on the sales side with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, really the sales cycle is easier in my opinion with the B2C customers than it is with the B2B, because with the big home builders that we do work with, a lot of times these projects are 3-4 years long. These homes take so long to build. We're at the very beginning of it, and sometimes we can get in the middle. But it's kind of, if we don't already have a relationship with those guys, it's constant follow-up for, possibly years. We've only been in business, was it 17 months? So, some of these projects go so long, it's constant follow-up and months and months and months of doing that before we can land the next one. And those are builders that we don't have relationships with quite yet. The B2C market is a lot more straightforward to me because they're looking for a service. They need it, relatively quickly. And so it's easier in my opinion because they call us from the ads or from the website or whatever it may be. I go out and look at the job. I give them a bid within 24 hours. That's our goal. And then, the follow-ups shortly after, and we get an answer usually pretty quick. So there hasn't really been a learning curve to it at all. I've found it to be easier with those B2C clients.
Yeah. And the big thing we hear, because some of our clients do that switch too all the time. They're like, all right, I'm moving away. The biggest reason a lot of guys say is just the speed to get paid.
Yeah.
That B2C is much faster. Projects done, get paid, go home, instead of a net 30, net 60, net 90, waiting on big checks to come in.
Yeah. And it's also a lot easier, that makes things so much better, especially on jobs where we're having to bring in a ton of material or haul off a bunch of material. I mean, you guys got us a huge pond expansion job that we just finished up a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, we essentially doubled the size of this guy's pond. And I mean, it was hundreds of trucks worth of dirt that needed to be removed. And so, think about how much that costs.
Yeah.
And so just having the stress of knowing a huge chunk of your revenue for that job is going to go out the window and needs to be paid. And so having that check in hand when we leave the job, it's a sigh of relief because I'm not having to wait for them to put the check in the mail and, maybe the check gets lost or they didn't get the invoice, but you've sent it. So you got to figure all that out. You wait 3 or 4 weeks to figure out they didn't get the invoice. And then you've got to resend it. And then you've got to wait another 3 to 4 weeks.
Right.
It's just a huge headache. So those B2C jobs are preferred.
Yeah. Some of our clients will do like a month-long project, 3-week-long project, the B2B, and then they'll fill the gaps with those B2Cs.
Yeah.
And in between the big jobs and obviously to keep the crews busy, but also they've said it helps with the cash flow. So while that big commercial project is waiting to get paid, those little residential ones are now paying the bills to help that cash flow go. And I've always thought that was a pretty neat strategy. And so same thing, like in terms of our marketing strategies, like, all right, how do we get the B2Cs to fill in those gaps for them? And then every once in a while you get some guy who's like, well, we're busy for the next 2 months. Let's put it on pause. And you're like, well, but surely 2 months is going to go by fast.
Yeah.
You're going to need some more work. And so one of our clients, he's booked already through August with a lot of big jobs right now. He's got a $500,000 project. He's one of the guys that did $1 million project. And he's also working on that 9-figure one. But he was like, yeah, we're booked through August. Keep it going. Like let's keep stacking. Cause he's like, I'll find a way. I'll buy more machines. I'm like, that's scaling. Let's go.
Look at you. Good for you. Yeah. I mean, we have no intention of like moving away from the builder market. It is a more challenging market for someone our size. But if you think about like even having to scale up the farm and ranch stuff, the B2C stuff, to be able to get super, super busy there requires multiple crews, which means multiple equipment, multiple trucks, multiple trailers. So for us, being able to get like even if I were to go back to those numbers, if you look at the correlation between amount of revenue the B2B guys make for us versus how many of the jobs we had to do, like the ratio is like pretty skewed, right? And that's always nice, but at the same time, they're unpredictable and there are so many things. And like Colton said, even the market we service, these projects are long, and they don't, we're not doing 10 at a time.
Right.
It requires us to go out and get it moving. And so it has like a pretty good set of challenges to service that market. So this B2C stuff stepping in, especially with the cash flow demands, it's just been a lifesaver.
Right. We have one client that has been for a long time only doing B2B, and he got locked down on a job. He was all in, and they pulled the plug after he had already spent a ton of his money. He's going to court with them and all that. And he's like, I think I'm going to win. He goes, but that's going to be months. He's like, I have got zero cash. I'm so upside down right now. And I was like, that's just not a world I want to mess with. Like, to move it around into other aspects. So you've got other things coming in, so that money's coming in different directions really does seem like a way to go. So
yeah, and
that's what he said. He's like, I'm done with that. I'm mixing it up for now on. I'm like, cool. Well, we're ready to help you do both now.
We're getting into like small commercial stuff too that, we can handle. And, at first that looked like doing kind of punch list, after the build items for a commercial guy we know. And, now it's looking like, maybe the dirt work on a small apartment complex. And so it's like, even as we get into some of those things, then we got another problem. It's like, well, of our revenue mix, does one customer or one type make up too much to where that's too risky?
Right.
If they pull the plug, how screwed would we be? And so, there's always problems. They just look different. And I guess if it was easy, everybody'd do it.
Yeah, for real. So talk to me about this 24-hour pivot. Give me the details on this.
Yeah. So some of this is I think just the way that we operate.
Okay.
And then some of it too, I think, is a symptom of like me doing something else full time and not being able to like sit in this role and strategize and look around corners and prepare for things like I normally would. So
Mm-hmm.
as a team, we've gotten super good at when a problem pops up, we are very quick at this iterative cycle of solving problems and implementing
Okay.
change. And while that's a good thing, it can be quite uncomfortable at times. Um, but from our
Yeah.
perspective, if something happens and things aren't going well, like we had a slow period, winter, which is generally pretty slow for construction anyway, but it just seemed to hurt quite a bit. And so it was like, all right, well, we've decided, here's our outlook, here's where we're at. So we implemented weekly metrics and, kind of gave Colton a bit more structure on, output and outbounds and follow-ups.
Right.
And, all this is in conjunction with AI, which is the nice thing because when you have like a strategic thought partner in
Mm-hmm.
AI, I get to kind of go in a cave. Once we've like established what the problem is, I go into a cave, I come up with some stuff,
Oh yeah.
and then it helps me
Oh,
like
yeah.
put it into a way that's really simple to understand and concise, which I am not a concise person, as everyone can tell. Um, and then allows us to kind of come back to the team and say, okay, here's the plan. Let's get some feedback on it. So that way, it's like a good mix of everybody giving buy-in
Mm-hmm.
on the solution, to where it's not like they're being mandated or managed by it,
That's good. Yeah.
but they also don't have to take their time to come like solve this strategic problem, because that's not
Yeah.
what they want to do. That's not what they're here to do. And
For
so,
real. Yeah.
yeah, it allows us to kind of iterate really quickly on things and pivot really quickly. One caution I would give, especially when you can kind of make up a lot of ground and come up with a lot of ideas quickly, if you're using AI as like a thought partner,
Mm-hmm.
change management, especially in this industry, is tough. And you just have to be careful about how much change you try to roll out at one time.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
I've got folders like deep in my Google Drive of
Yep.
operating procedures and policies and ideas and team structures and different types of reports that we'll do when it's right. But we
Yeah.
have to be cautious of distracting the guys too much. And also,
Yes.
you can't roll something out and have it fail and roll it out and have it fail because you haven't implemented it thoroughly. Because then it
Right.
just creates a culture of, well, here's the new idea we don't
Right.
have to do that's going to die in 2 weeks. So,
Oh man. Yeah.
yeah.
Same.
So,
We're in the same boat. Obviously, with digital marketing, AI is like
oh,
the
yeah.
hottest of hot things right now in our space. Everything from internal workings, communications, even how do we use it in our marketing for guys like y'all, and then how do we roll it out for? And that's really where our new mindset is right now. Is we've got some stuff we're doing internally, but now how can we utilize it in y'all's businesses and help you guys, all of our clients, figure out how to use it in a way that's not just chat GPT, talk at it and get info processed, but actually doing stuff, building
Yeah.
stuff that makes your job faster, stronger, better, right? So, but we find that it's adapting, it's going so quickly that
Yeah.
some of the stuff that I was just starting to research is already old. And I'm like, that
Yeah.
was only 3 weeks ago. Like, I don't even need to use that tool that I was just about to sign up for. That's insane. And so we're kind of at this, like, the internet boom is the AI boom, where everyone's trying to figure out what it is, how do we use it, how do we take advantage of it, because now a lot of us have learned from the internet age, oh,
Yeah.
there's money to be made here, so how do we jump first before everyone else starts figuring it out?
Yeah.
But unloading it on my team right now, I feel the pushback. We're about to be at 13 full-time employees, and the ones I got a lot of them in their 20s and 30s thinking, oh, they're going to love this, and there's a few of them that are like, no, don't love it. Don't. That's too much, too quick, too far. I'm just, feeling comfortable with what I do on a daily basis. I don't want to now incorporate a new SOP that incorporates AI. So that's a real thing, is the adoption rate too, and figuring out how do we roll out where it's good enough, but not too fast where people just push back and buck up against it.
I think that's one of the big challenges we have as like business leaders, is to try to figure out how to take the temperature of the team, keep
Yeah.
them focused on their everyday, not
Yeah.
implement too much change. I mean, if you're one of those people that's looking into AI and trying to follow it the best way you can, it's super overwhelming.
It is.
Anybody who's talking about it online wants to grab your attention, so they're telling you you're behind, and like you internalize
Oh, yeah.
that no matter how much.
Oh, the
You know,
FOMO, so they
it's
can sell you
so bad.
something. Yeah.
But I will say, like, from my tech experience, we're used to, or I've been in multiple projects where we've sold tens and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of tech into giant
Nice.
companies with
Nice.
lots of divisions and tons of change required to adopt a new thing. And what I didn't know before this industry was just how critical change management is.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things that you can take to this. And it's the same reason we haven't rolled out a ton of the stuff we have, because we haven't really fulfilled the thing we already rolled out.
Right.
We're not all,
Right.
because you got to think there's always an iterative process for every new thing that you're doing. So even right now, the most recent example, we've been doing it for 3-4 weeks. Came up with, of course, every year we document what's our quarterly and our annual goals. Most of those goals are based around revenue and utilization. So like how much of available time are the guys in the field doing things? We have metrics like we want each person in the company to represent essentially 250K in revenue. And so like that's a target. So basically that would just tell you, are you a super efficient business or not? And so we have some of these metrics. We break those down quarterly, those break down monthly. And one of the things we put in recently to help on the sales side is, these weekly metrics that have things like how many bids have been sent out, what's the volume of bids, here's the targets, here's the follow-up numbers. Because what's really hard in sales, and I've done it for a long time, is how do you know when's good enough? Because between sales and like sales effort and revenue realized, there's a good lag, 4 or 6 weeks, sometimes longer. So like, even if you're working really, really hard and the revenue is not quite there yet, you end every day thinking you're just failing utterly.
Right.
And so having a metric that's built off your end goals into daily actions is super critical to where you can do it. And then you can go spend time with the family knowing, hey, I did my part today. I may not see that tomorrow, but we're doing the right thing. Right.
That's great. But one of the things that we've quickly implemented, simple enough, and staff are actually loving it, is allowing like Claude Cowork to go in. It accesses all of our sales information. It accesses our spreadsheets and all that data. Accesses another big KPI as a company is retention. Like how well are we doing for our clients? Then they stick around, right? So we have rates, like we want to stay at a 97% retention rate. And so it's pulling all that data now on a weekly basis. So come Monday morning in our ClickUp channel, which is where all of our communications happen, Claude goes into all of that stuff in the middle of the night, pulls all that data together and creates like thermometers. And so we can see visually just where we're at on all these key metrics as a company, and the whole staff can see it together. Right. And so there's like goals and stuff. We hit these certain goals, there's reward or whatever. So everybody's motivated, but we're also allowing the AI to keep us on track instead of me trying to interpret a couple spreadsheets and then I get busy, I'm behind and stuff like that. Like those are the easier ones that I've seen guys are like, wow, I actually love this stuff. I found that by doing that has caused a few of our employees to go, well, what else can it do? I'm like, finally, there you go. Like think through in your pillar, like your responsibilities in this company, what could you start utilizing that's not just ChatGPT responding and analyzing data, but actually working on your behalf to help you do better, faster, stronger. Like that's kind of the language we're using. Is we're not trying to replace you. We're trying to actually help you do even better at your job, utilizing the tools that we have. And so let's take advantage of that now. So if that gives you more information, more analytics to make better, stronger decisions for our clients, then let's do that. So that's another one of the things we're actually working on trying to build and roll out for our clients. On one of our packages is that same thing that we've built will go into y'all's software and pull that same data for you and your company and show you every Monday morning where we're at. And so you guys will be able to have that.
There's a couple of things in there that I absolutely love. And I'm sure Colton at this point is like, God, Trailer's nerding out so much on this conversation.
But I know I always have to be careful, especially at like parties and stuff. I'm like, all right, hey, let's not talk too much about AI.
Well, I mean, it's AI has actually been super frustrating up to this point because, with what Claude's come out with and with agents becoming a real thing, now it can actually do things on your behalf.
Right.
Previously, like, yes, it was impressive that it could generate a new thought based on the information it pulled together and your thing. Like, that was impressive, but it was always being hyped as more than that. And previously, it just kind of, for most of us, wasn't more than that. Now that you can have agents do things, this is the big pivot point. This is the huge game changer. So, like, for us, who we're scaling from, a few guys and a couple of machines to, new crews and new things, I want to make sure that the overwhelming majority of our productivity and our investment goes into the field, the thing that drives revenue. I want to try to spend as little as possible on the things that just kind of help run the business without sacrificing how well we get to do it.
Right.
And what I love about what y'all do in being able to share all that data, that's one of the big tenets of our policies, over here too, is we are super transparent. Like I do quarterly business reviews for our business. And I always joke, like the first time I set a meeting and I was like, all right, everybody come to the shop. I'm going to have lunch. We're going to do a quarterly business review. They're like, great. What's for lunch?
Great.
And what we are,
Yeah.
And,
hey, I got to go.
But it's funny because we go through all of our financial metrics. Here's the revenue. Here's our profitability. Here's our customer breakup. Here's the segment we tested that we thought we didn't want to play in. Confirmed we're not going to play in that anymore. Here's where we're going. Like that level of transparency builds trust in the organization that they trust you to be an adult and like a big contributor in the business.
Right.
And it's great for the culture. And I think a lot of people hide some of those things because they don't have them all figured out. And the beauty is these tools now allow you to pretty easily figure all that stuff out to where you can be more transparent with the team, and it just creates more buy-in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things that we're building too, like, Colton, imagine on the sales side that you record all of your calls and it feeds into the machine and gives you a score on how well you did on your sales deliverable like that. And then it gives you talking points like, hey, you said these things, here's some things you could improve upon next phone call. Right. Where you're like, I actually have a sales coach now.
Yeah.
That's analyzing everything that we're doing on the sales side. So not just running analytics and data, but is actually coaching you. So things like that, where it's like, let me think through every aspect of this business where I can utilize this to just do better. So that's something else that we're working on. And I'm working on my sales team too, is how can, so that instead of me trying to be the coach all the time right now, I'm like, let me take the thought process of the internet from like major sales guys and then use their knowledge base to actually coach you. And it will read and listen to every single thing you've ever said through all your sales calls. Now, some guys will be scared and overwhelmed by that, but some guys will take that as a challenge and be like, well, show me where I can improve.
Yeah. One of the big things, so like if you follow the entrepreneur operating system, one of the things it says to do as a new business is fill out your org chart as to what your business is going to look like and run like in 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. So from the CEO all the way down to the people running finance, all those things. And since in the beginning, you can't hire all those people, each of you go sign up for those jobs. And right now, Colton wears the most hats out of anybody. So what's nice about where these AI agents are at is we now get to take a look at, okay, what are all the things that are on your plate that are keeping you from doing the high revenue things? And also the things you like to do, the things that don't make you sad at the end of the day. How can we build something to take that off your plate without having to like really consider, hey, let's go hire somebody and train somebody. Maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. They're like simple functions that we can relieve the pressure.
Yeah.
As a small business, it's going to be really critical.
Yeah. No, that's great. One of the things that we're having to be very careful, and this is something that we've been talking about even in the marketing space, is that yes, AI has replaced a lot of jobs, will replace a lot of the repetitive type jobs, but is not intended to replace all humans.
No.
And I do think that 10 years from now, there will be a greater value on human touch points because there's so much AI and agents doing things that some companies are going to try to run solely off of AI. And so when a company has like human beings involved with other human beings, there's gonna be like a higher value on that, I think. That people are going to appreciate. Now, I think in your field, it's going to be, it's harder to have an AI bot run your machine, but who knows? Maybe that's coming.
Well,
right?
I mean, they have huge dozers and huge excavators.
Oh, that's true.
That can be operated from an air-conditioned Connex box miles and miles away.
That.
That's pretty wild. But it was funny when we first, Charlie started trying to pimp all these AI things. He said
he's a hustler.
Construction is the slowest adopter of new technology.
Yes.
Out of all, what was it, like the top 50?
It's the top 50. Yeah. So like early on, because I'm in tech, they're the number one adopter of tech. That makes sense.
Of course. Yeah.
But of the top 50 industries, construction is the slowest to adopt.
Yes.
Which I thought, given our partnership and experience, gave us a unique edge that we could come in and create that different experience, not just race to the bottom. We could get to higher revenue per person because we could scale in different ways. But even when you, and it's not just like office function. So like a good example too of how we're using it for the field guys, we had a new service we wanted to offer. We had like a couple new services we wanted to go out and confidently say, hey, we can do this, instead of we want to, but we haven't yet.
Right.
We just asked AI like, hey, this is a service we want to, speak intelligently and confidently about. What's the best way to get trained up? And it curated like, here are the top YouTube videos. Here are the top things that I found that you should pay attention to in this service. If you're asking questions during your discovery and estimating, ask these questions, because these are the things that somebody who's not really done it before might miss. Like, it's even little curated stuff like that do help the field guys actually operate better and helps us quote faster and get jobs. We actually got a job very quickly after that in one of because the guys could go say it. So it's like that's one of our ways that we think it impacts the field. But yeah, we don't intend to replace any of our guys with robots on skid steers anytime soon.
I think it'd be wild to see it once, but then I'm like, I'm done. That was cool. Skynet, there we go.
Yeah, Skynet.
Yeah, we want to.
Yeah, no, thanks, not on that part. But cool. I mean, I love that you guys are forward thinking though, and it's not just the same old the way it's been done for the last 50 years. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. I do think that all companies have got to figure out how to do this well, right? Not over the top, but not underutilize it, but figuring out what's the right balance in order to scale and grow our companies. So good job to you guys on that. So, what's next for y'all? Like, where are you guys headed? What's going on with TexTerra?
Yeah, I mean, we are trying to master the fundamentals right now.
Okay.
That's our big thing. And if you can kind of zoom out a bit, we have, I mentioned our Liberty Hill Legacy Project, which is essentially a two-pronged approach where we sort of book in the community, where we're investing in the high school construction program, trying to give kids, an insight into what the modern tradesman looks like, and job training and experience and just education. Do you want to start a business? Here's what it takes. Do you just want to come work for us? Here's a pipeline to do that. And then the other piece is trying to work with some of the, older folks in our community that have specialty services businesses like what we do, landscaping, concrete work, like whatever in our sphere, and work with them on exit strategies. Like my dad is in an unrelated business, but he's of that age, the, kind of boomer age, if you will.
Yeah.
And he's trying to exit his business, and it's taken him a year to even get to the point to realize this one relationship he was working on wasn't going to work. So there's a big market opportunity for people who are just too big for somebody, Joe Blow off the street to go get and run that business with no experience,
right?
But just too small for like the big consolidators to look at. And
I feel we want to pick that one up.
Yeah, we've got so many legacy businesses around here in this community that we want to make sure kind of stick around. And that looks like helping those owners exit and keeping those business legacies in place. So for us to be able to do that, though, like if you look at that piece of it, the acquisition piece of it, you have to have your ship so tight to where you can onboard a new team in 30 days. If you don't, morale gets going, the guys are sitting around, people will leave, you lose a lot of that like tacit knowledge that those crew members have. And we have to have good systems in place for them to fold into so we can grow, inorganically through the acquisition, but then also organically now that we have like more core competency to work with. And so for us, and I broke this all down for the team, here's the next 10 years. But it all starts with this next 18 months. And that is us documenting anything that takes over 2 minutes for us to do so we can put it to a system. We can bring anybody into our system, and it's a really good place to work because it's not just about buying the revenue of the new company. It's also about finding efficiencies by putting them into our well-oiled efficiencies and machines. So, that's a big part of our strategy is like, pay attention, understand our customers, what works for us, what doesn't work for us, and just get really tight at the things we can control so we can begin that next phase of inorganic growth in a couple of years.
Oh, that's good. So where does marketing fit in this? You guys were not using marketing as you were going into your I believe the B2C or B2B stuff, and then started using it for the B2C stuff. So, even as we're talking to other guys that are operator owners, like where does the marketing really fit and how do you take advantage of that to hit these goals that you guys are hitting? Yeah,
I think we look at marketing really in two ways. So even on our B2B side, a ton of that is just like networking. It's just like enterprise sales, right? You have to be there. You got to know people. You got to do the things. But our biggest problem right now is just obscurity. So many people don't know we exist. And we're a really good business and we do really, really good work. And you can only go to so many, community luncheons and only meet so many friends of friends. And so for us to kind of soften the body, if you will, of the B2B market, it's just seeing us around. And that's seeing us through social posts and through ads. Because even if they don't buy that way, they still consume in that same way. They're still looking on Facebook and they're still looking at Google. It's like, so awareness in the B2B market is how we're using marketing there. And the nice thing is it's also translating to getting us deeper into that sales cycle, like I talked about with the B2C world. So we can pick up that volume of business without having to put forth that volume of sales effort. The marketing that we get with y'all just takes us so much further and qualifies these customers so well that we're not having to spend time. Okay, well, here's what we do. Okay, what do you want to do? Okay, what's your budget on that? Oh, you're not interested today? All right, we'll come back in 2 weeks. We're not door-to-door style selling those people. They're coming to us. And that's a big scale factor for us. So that's our goal, right? Just continue to get out there and continue to get these like quick cash flow jobs that help us spend the time that B2B requires.
Awesome. What has the ROI been on marketing so far for you guys?
It's actually been quite good. I'm trying to think without revealing specific numbers. One job, the pawn job that we did already paid us more than double what we paid you to even start the whole program, including ad spend. So,
nice.
I mean, a good lever for us, like we're super low on ad spend at the moment, just given, cash flow.
Yeah.
Nice thing is we have the foundation in place. So it's an easy button for us. Like I think we upped our ad spend in April by 50% of what it was.
Nice. Yeah.
Now we're at 150% of what it was, in early March. And so we're seeing the results. We're already dumping money back into it, which is created by the jobs that we get. And I guess that's how business works. So
I know, right? Yeah. You're investing and we're trying to get a return on that investment.
Yes. I think that's how they talk about it.
Yeah, we usually try to tell most of the numbers we've seen for a while now is somewhere between 5x and 10x return on investment. And then we get some guys who are like, yeah, we're blowing that out of the water. It's way higher than that. So, and that's what we're trying to push that. I want for us, some of our goals, how do we go to 7x to 12x? How do we go to 10x to 20x ROI? And like, we just added a new package, a third package, and it's our most expensive package we've ever offered, but trying to set it up in such a way that it is one of those that will go over that 10x mark. So it doesn't really matter what you're spending. If you're getting a return on investment that's significant, then it's just a slot machine or an ATM machine, right? Then it's like whatever cash we do have, let's keep pouring it into that thing so that it keeps producing.
Well, and one more thing that I think is super important to talk about, like what we're doing with y'all, is the fact that the package we have with y'all, I don't know if you have one that doesn't have this in it, but the fact that we get a CRM with it. Because when we were talking to our friends in our business park that actually referred us to y'all, we were talking about, what comes with it, what's it like, whatever. And I kind of knew we weren't set up to have an influx of leads because we didn't have a process to handle those leads. So it'd be wasted money if we did it. What I loved about y'all's package was the fact that it comes with a place to capture and do something with that. And that solved that whole problem for us. We didn't have to go out and get another piece of software and train Colton on the software. Paul did that. And so it's like that part, I think, I don't know. If I'm trying to remember from the sales cycle, I don't know if that was like super hyped, but for us as a business, it was a really big earn.
Yeah, it's in every package. We started making it like a mandatory thing about 2 years ago because it's just so instrumental in this whole process. Because at the end of the day, again, when you at least with us, if you're doing marketing with us, our goal is not to just get you some phone calls. Right. We want to actually be a part of your sales process. Not that we're qualifying or calling your leads, but that the whole process from the moment someone sees you is because we were involved in that all the way to when you do get that call. But then even having tools in place that if you couldn't answer the phone, was there an automated text that went out that was like, hey, this is Colton. Sorry, I missed your call. Can't wait to get you some info. Like I said, those solar shade guys, right? 5 of them on a Saturday, not a single one. And half of them were running ads. I'm like, you paid for me to show up and I gave you everything. I gave you a text. I sent you photos. I'm highly engaged and interested. And y'all couldn't even have a CRM that sends an automated text that feels organic.
Two things, though. That's two things, right? Number one, it tells when you offer a CRM as a part of every package, tells me that you know what you're talking about.
Right.
because you know it's not just about getting phone calls. It's how do you
Right.
where do those phone calls go? You
Right.
know? We
You
talked
need your
to
close in those.
big marketing like competitors that didn't
Mm.
have that. And what that tells me as a
Wild.
business owner and potential customer is you don't actually care if I get the jobs. You just want
No.
the money to do the work. But I
Yep.
bet if you go look at their retention rates, they're low and they got a bunch of people, out there on the streets that say running ads doesn't work. And it's like, no, running
Right.
ads does work. You just
Yes.
you didn't have the
You didn't do a
infrastructure
good
to
job.
handle the
Exactly.
ads. Yeah. So that to me, I think can't be like understated or
Mm.
overlooked. It's
Yeah.
such a critical component of it.
Right.
It's helped us tremendously.
Yeah,
Awesome. Glad to hear
another
it.
thing I would add, having the CRM, especially for a lot of blue collar guys, and this is something that drives Charlie crazy about me, is I keep a lot of stuff in my head, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at it, but as we scale and as we get more leads, and there's days where I'm getting 15, 20 phone calls. I
Yeah.
can't keep all of those in my head, plus the calls from yesterday, plus the calls from Monday. And
Right.
so I know a lot of blue collar guys are the same way. They try to keep everything in their head, or they try to jot it down on a notepad and try to remember, you're flipping through pages and pages of a notebook trying to find the phone call and what it was about and the phone number and all that. So that's a huge benefit of all of y'all's packages, is having access to that CRM.
Awesome.
And I tell the guys all the time, like, data is a company's gold mine.
Yes.
And data in a format I can use it and do things with it and go off in a cave and do my stuff and come back to you with like great things that we now know about ourselves and how do we shift the business based on it. That's only possible if the data lives somewhere, not in somebody's head. And
Right.
we can't increase our estimating efficiency if I don't know how every bid was built.
Right.
If they were built off, just how good I am and how much I remember, and like if there's no track record of any of that. And we've
Right.
got like after action reports that, hey, and it's asking key like estimating metrics, right? How wooded was the property? Was it hilly? How rocky was it? 1 to 5. Like it's not perfect, but it gives us metrics that we can understand. How long did we bid? How long did the job take? Are we bidding too long? Are we bidding too short? What were the factors in that? Like we have to do that because if we want to, you're not going to be able to hire, I think, to the point you need if your metric like it is right now for us to hire just A+ rock stars all around. At some point, you've got to be able to hire some people that can slot into a system and work that system. Right now, we have really entrepreneurial people, which is, good and has its own challenges too.
Sure.
But we've got to be able to build systems out. The system is only going to be appropriate and useful if it's built on something, and that something is the data.
Right.
And the data can't come from your head.
Right.
So this is a really good first step because now I can call him at any point and be like, what's our pipeline this week? And it's no longer, and now it's here,
right.
Yeah,
got all your numbers right there too. And on the sales side, I mean, that's where I use it a lot in our own because we're using the same CRM for our own business. So that's why I was like, why would we not have this for every other business we work with? This is so important. But even on the sales side, if we've got one, probably our client who does the most advertising with us is pulling in 400 to 500 leads a month, which is insane to me. That so imagine, Colton, to your point, you had 30 phone calls today and there were 30 yesterday and 30, you couldn't even remember the ones from earlier this morning at that point. Right. So, and then what normally happens is we all know in sales that there's going to be a handful, a good chunk of them who aren't quite ready yet, but are interested. You got some who could be interested, but maybe a few months from now. And where do you, if you're just doing the whole putting it on a stick-it note or writing it in your phone on your calendar, you'll never follow up with all those. And so having a system that has an automation in place where there's different types of automations for those different types of customers or potential customers to put it on autopilot so you can set it and forget it and then go on to your new leads. That we've seen sales for us sometimes guys go, hey, yeah, now I'm ready to sign up. And I'm like, I don't even remember who you are. Oh, look, that was 6 months ago. We talked to you 6 months ago, but they had been getting a text and an email from us every 2 weeks for the last 6 months. And they were finally ready to go. And so on their end, they were like, y'all stayed in front of us this entire time. Whereas, I wouldn't have done that if I was doing it by hand or trying to remember it in my phone. Right. So having a system in place that helps you automate a lot of your stuff on the sales side, and then internally on all the details and data about that potential client or clients. And then, oh my goodness, you pull all that data now into your Claude, and we can go back to the AI discussion. You're like, this is where it can get real insane, and we can get really dialed in and know, like, all right, is this a sales problem? Is this a marketing problem? Is this an operations problem? Like, you've got all that
I
info.
just get so excited about that stuff.
Yeah,
like
same.
When we first got running on the CRM, I'm used to using like big company CRMs, right? There's methods of how everything gets filled out because we've got hundreds, thousands of leads and deals. And so when we sat down, I was like, all right, how are we naming these leads? And that spurred what I wanted, which was a naming convention set up for our different types of customers. And I lit up. I was like, let's go to the whiteboard. And I was like, how do we think of our customers? Let's put them in these buckets. How is that bucket? Is that by number of jobs? Is that by revenue? Like, is that by industry title? Is that how they think of themselves? If we talk in that manner, are they going to know what we mean? Like, I go so hard on exercises like that, and I was
through the roof.
Oh, dude, I was
like,
I was asking him. I was like, "Do you want to do it like this or like this?" And he's like, "I don't know."
Oh, dude, like a puppy. And I was just smiling, and he was like, "You know the answer." I was like, "No, I don't. That's what's so fun. Let's do that." You know, like I love the process of this.
Yeah.
But it was great because we walked out of that room that day and I was like, okay, well, here's our naming convention for opportunities. Now it's super clear.
Yeah.
Now you can do that every day, and I can run my reports to understand our customer segment based on this. And like, I just love it so much. So
one of the ones that I love using is the attribution source. Where did they come from? Were they a Google ad? Were they a Facebook ad? Were they organic? Because we've learned over the years that each one of those sources has a different mentality. That person who came in through Google has a higher percentage chance of actually converting into a paying customer now. Whereas the Facebook ads and stuff are a little bit longer of a buying. They're more like, hey, you piqued my interest. I wasn't necessarily looking at the moment. So then when I can sort through this whole contact list based on attribution source, where they came from, now all of a sudden I can create different messaging for those different types of groups that are coming in. A more long-term sequence for those who are on the ad side, and then a short-term sequence for my Google or my organic, or even now we're tracking AI, people who've like found us through AI searches. Same thing. They're like Google searches where they're like stronger intent to buy. So you can do a shorter cycle of sales language to them.
I remember those metrics as one of the main things that helped us get started, because we didn't want to split because this was a net new spend for us that we didn't have a plan before, right? So this was like net new spend. So we had to make the dollars, work with what we had, and we didn't want to like stretch it too thin, like a little here, a little there. And those metrics that you had helped us know, oh, okay, we're going to take all our ad spend and go right to Google, and that's going to make the most sense right now.
There you go. Yep.
And
I remember having that discussion.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's helpful for us as a business trying to figure out, like, I mean, we're not rolling in the dough. We're a new business. We're doing our best, Yeah. We're not one of those people spending 10 grand a month on ads yet.
Right.
Yeah. So we had to be judicious with the money we had.
That's right.
So, your metrics help us make the right decision.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I love it. That's good stuff. Well, we've gone over our time, so I want to ask you one final question. My fun one. We'll finish up with this. What is the wildest experience you've had out in the field? Wildest customer, wildest experience in a machine? Just give us something that's a little out there.
Man,
we've heard some good ones.
Yeah, I mean, we really, because a lot of our job sites are, in the city of Austin.
Yeah.
The OSHA stuff is a big deal. So, really the craziest things we ever see are like job site injuries, we were working alongside some welders and a dude, they were welding some stuff up in the air, and a big piece of metal came down and landed right on the back of his head and busted his head open. But, we really haven't seen anything too crazy. And maybe part of that is we've only been going for 17 months or so.
I'm thinking about, so one of the very first like farm and ranch type clients we did was down, I think it was Dripping Springs. That one.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
There was like some kind of high grass or something like that.
So they had a pile of dirt, and they had just built this, they were developing this property, and it was a pretty low scale operation. It was just husband and wife. They were building this barn dough type office thing. They were planning to rent it out, and there was piles of dirt everywhere. And there was one kind of out in this field, and they said, "Hey, can you guys scoop up that pile and move it over here?" And we were like, "Yeah, no problem." Well, one of our guys hops in the skid steer and goes to get a bucket of, scoop up the dirt. And he moved a couple of scoops, and he goes and gets a big pile of dirt. And unbeknownst to us, there was a septic tank under this pile of dirt. And he picked up the lid and almost drove the skid steer into the septic tank.
Oh, no.
And thankfully, what made me even more nervous about it was the guy that was doing it didn't have a ton of experience operating equipment. He knew how to run a skid steer, but he hadn't been doing it very long. And so that made it even scarier because, he's a newbie. And what if he drove the 8,000-pound machine into the septic tank? How am I going to get it? And so, I'm glad you brought that up, Charlie. That was a pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah, we had that kid for a little bit at the beginning, and he's not with us. He's doing something else. But maybe that was a contributing factor. He's like, in Devon with these. But
we had bought a couple of my buddies. We had bought an investment property in Bastrop, but kind of on the Austin side, right on the river, and it was all septic, but it was an old crack house and stuff. So it used to be people would dump their garbage on the backside by the river. It was this beautiful property, but they just had dumped it. But we couldn't find the septic. We knew there was septic there, but we just couldn't. It got buried where the lid was. And so we were digging around where we thought, no, it's not there. But it was as we started digging, we started realizing we're on thin ground now, fellas. We may find it by walking into it and falling into the septic. So we all started kind of taking those long steps, okay, are we good here? Is it good here? And fortunately we found it eventually and nobody fell in, but I knew that feeling too of we cracked that thing open. I was like, I am so glad we didn't fall in this. This is gnarly. That's crazy. Well, guys, thanks so much for being on. You guys have dropped some golden nuggets for everybody. Love what you guys are doing. Excited to be a part of it with you guys, and just wish you guys the best. Keep scaling, keep growing, keep killing it. So, but appreciate y'all so much. Y'all take care. Everybody who's watching, who's listening, check these guys out. You can find their website. It'll be down in our the different social media links that we've got. Subscribe, if you guys are listening on one of our podcast channels, please leave us a review. It really helps us continue to grow and scale ourselves. And we really want this to continue to be a resource to the Dirt World community. So, but wherever you're at, follow, subscribe, whatever it is. Thank y'all so much. Have a good night. See ya.